Most dynasty managers think that leagues are won on draft night, and they're wrong. If you want real edge, the offseason is where championships are built, and I want to show you how today. My name is Caleb, and welcome to the Dynasty Edge, where we teach you how to think like a GM so that you can take your teams from rebuilding to winning championships for many years to come. And today, I'm going to be talking about why dynasty leagues are won in the offseason, not during the draft. And today, I wanted to start at the basics, at the very bottom. And number one is you got to know the direction of your team. If you want to know why you're going to win in the offseason, you have to know your team's direction. Before you do any trades, before you make any picks, before you know any strategy, you really have to give yourself an honest assessment. Where is my team at? Is my team ready to take on veteran players? Is my team ready to take on new, improved rookies that are running backs or whatever it is? You need to give yourself an honest assessment of where your team is at and go all in on whatever that is. Whether you're a contender, whether you're a rebuilder, whether you're a retooler, you have to go all in on that strategy and don't get caught in the middle trying to do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Every single decision that you make in the offseason depends on where your team is at and giving yourself an honest assessment. Most dynasty managers think that they know, but they don't really give their team an honest assessment. I can't tell you how many times in leagues that I'm in where players are making trades on contenders that should be rebuilders. They're making trades for contending pieces as rebuilders, and they're doing vice versa. So everything down the line, you got to get yourself really clear on where your team is going, and you really have to figure that out. So the biggest offseason mistake starts here, acting like a contender and a rebuilder at the same time. You cannot do both. Figure out what your team direction is and go all in on that. If you're a contender, that means going all in to make sure your team is ready to contend for the year that's coming up. If you finish the top 3 in your league, whether that's top 3 finish, whether that's top 3 max points for in your league, those are clear signs that you are a contender and you should be making moves towards contending this year. If you barely made the playoffs, if you're kind of stuck in the middle, that's a time where you either need to decide, am I going to retool this roster or I'm going to go into a full rebuild? What I like to do when I have a team and I'm just stuck in the middle, I go to full rebuild. I want to rebuild that thing up. I want to make sure that I can build it the way I want to build it so that my team can succeed in the future. And so it's easier to go full down to the bottom, getting rid of anything of value, and collecting picks to make sure that I have a clear path for the next season. If you don't have a clear direction for your team, you're going to get stuck in the middle and you're not going to be able to win the offseason. Now, this next point that I want to make is why the offseason creates leverage. There is so many things going on in the offseason. A lot of managers, they just check out. Once the last season of the playoffs, leagues get paid out and they're just like, cool, I'm coasting, I'm not going to make any moves. And they just decide to be inactive during these crucial times in the offseason. And there is so much value to be had in the offseason. I know there's not anybody scoring points, but there are so many things about to come up. Yes, we have the Super Bowl, we had the playoffs. One big thing not to do when there's the playoff time is trade players that are currently in the playoffs. You could be trading for a player that might get injured in the playoffs. You could be trading away a player that could be exploding in the playoffs. It's not a good time to be trading for players, but getting any type of value is going to be really key for your team. So really trading for value at this time is going to help you. And then the next few things we have coming up, we got the combine. That's going to give us a lot of data on these rookies of where they're going to be going. Are they hitting certain metrics? Now, this isn't the end all be all. There could be the most exciting rookie that does every single thing in the combine, but that doesn't mean they're going to get picked well in the draft. These are good measurables to understand, but they're also things that we can be selling or buying in the offseason. If you have a running back and that you're really interested in the rookie draft and you see that they're starting to rise the ranks, you could be trying to sell other people on, hey, this guy's going to be going in the high, beginning of the second round, I'm going to send you this second round pick. Give me XYZ player. I think you can sell storylines, which gives you a competitive edge in your league. Another way to think about it is that we have the combine, we have free agency that's coming up. Free agency is a massive thing for Dynasty football because there's going to be players that are going to be speculated to move. There's going to be trades of players. There's probably going to be, 2 or 3 massive trades of notable Dynasty players this offseason that we have to keep our eyes on. And as soon as the hype starts building up, that's a great time to be trading that player. You see somebody in the news a bunch of times, that's a great time to move that player if you've been trying to move them. Or let's say you're seeing them in the headlines and you're like, hey, I want to get in on this before it actually happens. That's a great time to buy players. It's a great time to be active in the offseason because there is a lot going on. And all of that leads up to the draft. And the draft is going to tell us the most specific story about what players do in the rookie draft. That's going to tell us where we should be drafting guys, where we should be, ranking these guys, and how we should be going about in our drafts. If you see players that you like dropping, you can move back in the draft. If you see players you like moving up, you can move up in the draft. This is a year where picks are very highly undervalued, so you can make a lot of moves in this draft, but I promise you, the picks are going to be easier to get now than they are going to be in the future. So keep that in mind. A lot of people just in the offseason, this leverage time, people get bored and they're looking to make deals. So you could go out and make deals just because people want to be making deals. The other day in one of my leagues, somebody traded Jonathan Taylor and the 110 for Jahmyr Gibbs. That's a crazy value, and that's clearly a manager who is bored and wants to make a trade. That's a trade that you can make. Those are the types of things you can do because people are bored. They're looking for things to do in their leagues, and they want to make moves. There's value to be had. No, you're not always going to get a trade as good as that, but you can find really good trades if you stay active. So what I like to do is I like to send out at least one trade a week, if not 5, 10 trades a week, because I like to send multiple trades to multiple managers, but just try to have a goal of like, hey, I'm going to complete one trade per week that sets my team forward, that makes me make moves forward to get me towards the goal that I want to have, whether that's to have more picks in 26, more picks in 27, more picks in 28, whatever that looks like to make your team get to the point it wants to be. If you are a contending team, and you don't make moves in the offseason, you are missing out on massive value. This is the time to go get those vets. They're at their lowest value point, and the whole offseason and the whole season, this is the time to get your players, to build your team at the cheapest possible price to be able to set yourself up for the future. Build out your bench, build out your starting lineup, whatever that looks like, but go value, value, value. It's really going to help you. And it all matters. The biggest thing that matters in the offseason is timing, hitting those big moments, whether that's free agency, the draft, the combine, trades going on. Keeping tabs on what's going on in the NFL is going to really set yourself up for success because other managers are keeping tabs on that. When Mike McDaniel signed as the offensive coordinator for the Chargers, Omarion Hampton, he just skyrocketed. That was a great time to trade for Omarion Hampton before that, and it's a great time to sell Omarion Hampton after that because there's this hype around that new coach in that offense. Those are great times to make moves, so keep track of things going on in the NFL. Find the Charger owner, find the 49er owner, find the Eagles owner who thinks that A.J. Brown is going to be sent out. Go make those moves so that you can better your team and set yourself up for the future. Now, section 3, the next way to make, to win the offseason is you need to know how elite managers use rookie picks. Elite managers don't use rookie picks as lottery tickets. You're not meant to go and just pick all the picks. The surefire thing in 2026 is the 1.01. But as we've seen in so many years, that ends up not being the most valuable pick in the draft. Elite managers use draft picks like currency. They use them to make value adds to their team, to get players at value, to give themselves the best chance to get value for their draft. They don't always just stick and pick. They don't trade for 9 first-round picks and then make all 9 of those picks. Are you probably going to hit on one of those? Yeah, but are you going to lose a lot of value on some of those? Yeah. So making sure that you're using those to get value. I like to have a maximum, if I'm going to pick 2 to 3 first round picks in a draft, and that's a lot. I usually try to try to keep that to 2 if I'm really going to stick there and pick, but I'm always trying to move back, get more value if I'm a rebuilder, or move up and get a higher end player if I'm a contender, because I want to set my team up for the best success. And so you don't always look at them as lottery tickets. Hey, I'm going to hit no matter what on this 1.02. Chances are you might miss that. Wide receivers have a less than 50% chance, even drafted in round 1 of the actual NFL draft, of actually hitting in your lineup. And so chances are you might get that wide receiver wrong. And so in a future video, I'm going to be laying out where to draft players at the best values. And I think it's going to really be helpful. But just understand that elite managers don't use all of their picks. What they do is they try to get the value in their picks. They try to trade up, they trade down. They look at tiers in the draft and try to get to a back of a tier while gaining more value because you're in the same tier. This year, a big tier in the NFL draft is the 1.02 to the 1.05. That's going to be a big tier. So if you can go from the 1.02 to the 1.05 and get a first round pick in addition, or get a second round or a couple second round picks, or a 27 pick, whatever that looks like for you, you're going to be setting yourself up for the same tier of player, but you're just moving back to get more value for your team. So thinking of making moves like that is really going to set yourself up. And I think it's going to really help you be able to make those moves. And then moving picks while the hype is there, I think, is another thing that elite managers do. When there builds hype for a certain pick, Fernando Mendoza, this steam train is going. There was no chance a couple months ago that Fernando Mendoza was going to be higher than the 1.05. And now it looks like he's going to be the 1.02. So that pick is starting to gain in value more and more and more. And so elite managers are able to take advantage of the hype around a certain pick to be able to benefit their team. Maybe they trade it for another good quarterback and another draft pick. Maybe they move back in the draft to get a similar type player. They make moves like that to help their team. I try to do that when I'm in different leagues. And yes, you got to keep track of your league economy. You got to know who's making moves and who won't make moves in your league. But the biggest thing is to move for value at any points that you come. Dynasty edge, and the way to think like a GM in this way, the edge that you can get is taking advantage of timing, taking advantage of storylines, taking advantage of other teams' needs and the things that they need on their team. Do they need a quarterback? Do they need a running back? Do they need a wide receiver? And the perception of that. Most people don't go for value, they go for team need. And what you should be doing is always going for value. You draft for value, you trade for need. And so getting people to trade for needs in the offseason is one of the greatest ways to gain value in your team. People start trying to build their lineups in January, and that makes no sense because we have 8 months until the season starts. There's a lot of time to build your lineup, so you can get so much value because somebody's like, I got to get my wide receiver 1. Hey, you got to pay up for your wide receiver 1, and so you can get value that way if you hold people and take advantage of those different market things. Here are some big, number 4 is the biggest offseason mistake managers make, and I think that this is the number one thing that people do that gets them caught, is that they decide to do nothing in the offseason and they call it patience. That's the way to get your team stuck. It's to get your team stagnant. It's the way to make your team go from the top down, down, down towards the bottom. Do not take no action and call it patience. That's not patience. That's just called laziness. You don't want to do anything with your team. You're too scared to make moves because you don't want to mess things up. Make moves. Make one move a week. One move a month will even help you move towards the goals that you have for your team. And so I just encourage you that you can make your team get to where you want it to go by just taking small steps every single week, every single couple weeks, every single month to get your team there. Don't let this people leave it up to chance to let their team get better. Don't call it patience. It's just laziness. If you want the edge, you got to be the one grinding. How I make an edge in all of my leagues is I'm the one grinding. I'm the one sending offers out. I'm the one going out there and making these deals before other people make those deals. So take advantage of that and don't, another thing is don't get emotionally attached to every single storyline. Don't hold A.J. Brown because he's going to get traded from the Eagles and you're going to get a massive value spike. He might not ever get traded. So I would say you can have emotional ties to some players, but don't have emotional ties to every player and every possible storyline. Everybody was buying T. Higgins last year because they thought T. Higgins was going to get traded and he was going to be the number one wide receiver on some team. until the Bengals signed him back for a huge contract. That's what I'm talking about. You can take some chances there, but don't get too emotionally attached to players. Make value moves, make value where they're at now with whatever the outcome is, if the player takes off or they don't. Don't be reckless, but don't be frozen, I think is one way to look at it. Don't be like crazy with your team, sending out everything and trading all the value away. Don't be frozen, but also don't be reckless. Okay, kind of be in the middle, but make action. Dynasty teams and dynasty leagues, you're not won and lost on one weekend. It's not one weekend. Yes, the final weekend of the season is where it's won and lost. So typically, yes, but in the off season, it's not won and lost in one weekend. There's always room for you to be able to go forward and be able to make moves forward. So the final takeaways here is that you need to figure out your direction. You need to know the storylines that you can take advantage of. You need to make small actions throughout the season and then realize that being patient and doing nothing are not the same thing. Make moves, move forward. Picks aren't the goal. You're not like, the goal isn't to have all the picks in the league. The goal is to have the most value and to be able to move your team forward so that you're the one controlling the draft. You're the one controlling the season. You're the one that people come to for the deals because they know they're going to get a good deal. And they also know that you have all the players that everybody wants. So make moves to set yourself up, over time. Remember, this channel, this thing that I'm doing here is not about player takes. It's about strategy, helping you succeed in your league and changing your mindset to be obsessed with players, and then move forward with trying to gain value and having a strategy edge, knowing your direction, and then making moves towards going in that direction. Now, if you're not sure what direction you're headed and you really want to know, like, how do I know that direction? How do I get my team in the right place? I'm actually now offering roster reviews that you can do, and I'll walk you through, what team direction you're going through, what moves you should be making, and what ways that you can be improving your roster so that you can move towards wherever you're at and get towards winning the championships, for many years to come. And I want to help you with that. If that's something that you're interested in, check the link in the description and I'll get you all set up from there. It'll be great. I can't wait to help out so many of you, but I hope this video was very helpful and that you got something from this. And I really hope that you guys take advantage of the off season. This is where your league is won, in the off season, and take advantage of it and move your team forward. I'll see you guys in the next one.